All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to wait just a few seconds to have everyone join. Zoom is usually a bit slower at letting people in. So we're going to start exactly 1 minute past. All right, I think we can start. Thank you everyone for joining. This is a different format about my name is Marcus. I'm from Hostaway, and we also have Simona from Airbnb here. Thank you very much for joining and welcome.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to speak to you and of course your hosts today.
Thank you. Yes, so 8 months ago we did a webinar together, and what we found out was that the actual Q&A section was under budgeted by quite a lot. We received really a lot of questions, and not only about the theme of the webinar. And what we thought would be great is if we actually, because there were too many questions to be answered, even within 1 hour we couldn't have done it. What if we get those questions in advance and then set up a webinar only around that? So now we did it, and we wanted to thank everyone who gave your questions. It turns out that a lot of you were asking the same things. So we're going to start right away by answering these and getting into the most asked questions. Now, for this webinar, we encourage you to use the Q&A part on Zoom. If you want to ask something else, we can't guarantee that we will have time to answer all the questions, but if there's something there, please go ahead and ask. Also, we have a chat function here, so if you want to send us any feedback, or if you can't hear us, or if you're wondering if this is going to be recorded and available later, yes, it is. Then you can put it in the chat. But now, let's start with what I think everyone is asking right now, and based on our questions as well that came in advance. Simona, Airbnb, what trends are you seeing right now? What's going on? What should we do? Tell us.
Yeah, it's a $1 million question, Marcus. I think everybody is keen to know what trends and what's coming next. But indeed, Airbnb, similar to like any other travel platform, what we're seeing now is that there's a lot of staycation demand, that Airbnb is driving very strong demand as well. And just to help illustrate some of it, I'm going to share my screen and just walk you through a couple of slides that I have prepared in advance. So just very quickly to talk you through what are the bookers' behaviors in this new world and what we're seeing, what our guests looking for. So first of all, what I want to highlight is that Airbnb is trending on top. What's clearly evident is that Airbnb is one of the biggest searched online travel platforms on Google in the last 12 months. And it resembles the similar pattern across various countries that you guys, if you decide to have a look at. What does that mean is that 90% of our traffic is organic for the last year or so. So we're driving a lot of bookings that are kind of not paid. Guests are coming to our platform because they like our platform and they want to book with Airbnb. So it's important for you to ensure that your listings are listed on Airbnb and represented correctly to drive the most bookings and the most value. Another interesting fact is that a lot of our demand is actually domestic demand. In around 90% of our recent bookings are from domestic customers. So staycation market is booming all over the world. Some markets are a little bit slightly at a different stage of recovery versus others. But what we're seeing, that pattern overall is kind of staycation for now. Interesting fact, though, is that even pre-COVID, around 70% of our business was domestic and 30% international. So what this shows is that our bread and butter has always been domestic. So we haven't totally changed. It's just something that people never thought of Airbnb as a domestic player within their markets. And also, what we're noticing is that 83% of our bookings are for entire homes. So guests are looking for secluded, entire home space where they're able to spend their time with their families and friends and kind of spend more than a week or so at the accommodation. Hope that answers majority of the questions in relation to trends, but I'm sure we'll delve deeper into it as the Q&A proceeds forward.
All right, thank you very much. Then the next question was related to more the long-term trends. So now we've seen a big shift, or a couple of shifts that you mentioned here. But what can we expect for this summer and for the rest of the year?
Apologies, I was on mute. Yeah, so for sure. So I think in terms of what we're seeing and have been seeing for the last month, and we're continuing to see, is that guests are looking for flexible stays and they're looking to stay for longer. What we mean is that guests, because of the continuously changing restrictions and, you know, lockdowns being reinforced, lifted again, guests are simply afraid to book a non-refundable accommodation. So it's really important for you as a host to facilitate that and ensure that you have flexible or moderate cancellation policy enabled. What we see is that almost three quarters of our bookings are for flexible or moderate cancellation policy. We've even introduced a filter in our search results that allows our guests to filter by flexible or moderate cancellation policy. So what that shows is that if you have strict cancellation policy enabled, for you, it's going to be really hard to get a booking if our guests are filtering by flexible or moderate cancellation policy. On top of that, Airbnb's length of stay has increased. As you may have heard Brian speak a number of times, and Airbnb produced a number of numbers, is that large volumes of our searches are now for 7 days plus. So it's important not only to ensure that you have flexible cancellation policy, but also that you're facilitating the longer term stay demand by ensuring that you have weekly discounts and monthly discounts, or even, let's say, 10-day discount enabled, which you can do through Airbnb directly and also Hostaway. So it's super important that you guys continue to optimize your supply while listing on Airbnb.
All right, thank you. Then something that that should be of interest to everyone is about Airbnb itself. You come quite a long way and evolved as a company. Your business model has changed, your target audience, your marketing strategies have changed a lot. And just last year, you had a great IPO, and now you're competing with the big guys. So how do you position yourself, and how do you come out on top of the competition, like you showed on Google Trends? What is the driver there, and what is it that you can offer both guests and hosts that's so hard to replicate?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, for a very long time, there has been a perception in the market that Airbnb is, you know, designed or used by 20-somethings who are looking to travel to London or Paris and spend a weekend with their friends. But apologies, my dog in the background, I'm really sorry for those of you who can hear it. But it is. Really sorry, we'll just continue on. So as mentioned before, Airbnb has been perceived for a long time to be for kind of 20-somethings traveling to London or Paris for a weekend. However, we have evolved significantly more in the last couple of years. And now our professional hosting business is representing a very large volume of our business, of course. And we're continuing to grow that segment. In order to help our hosts grow on our platform even further, we're continuing to develop our tools and help satisfy the needs of our professional hosts.
Oh, one of the pleasures of working from home. I was able to convince my wife to go and work in the other room this time. Usually I do the webinars from there, but that's yeah. Let's see if we can get back to the office soon. Speaking of getting back, I wanted to ask how was last year? How did things go? Because it was quite turbulent and very different. I know I see that a lot of our customers have joined this this webinar, and I've spoken to many of you before, and I know that your experiences have been truly unique. How could Airbnb respond to what happened last year with such a diverse user base and such a global presence?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. You know, I think when COVID hit the travel industry, or in general, COVID hit the world last year, you know, nobody anticipated the impact that it will have. And you know, not to say Airbnb has been impacted as significantly as many other businesses out there. So I think thanks to our agility and ability to quickly adapt, we were able to very quickly roll out an enhanced cleaning protocol, which is simple 5 steps to help guide our host and community to ensure that they're maintaining their property clean, sanitized and tidy for the next guest check-in. We quickly rolled this out and awarded badges to hosts who adopted and attested to our enhanced cleaning protocol. What that done is that it created trust from our guest community when they were booking, who were looking to book a property that had enhanced cleaning protocol enabled, because they felt safer and they wanted to pursue with kind of a host that understood and wanted to follow the restrictions and regulations that were implemented.
All right. Yeah, it was a lot of tough decisions that had to be made last year, but I'm very happy to see that well, the developments that happened since, and of course, you always say that that the whole platform is made possible by hosts. So now a lot of the questions that we received, they were related to performance. So I wanted to ask in very broad terms here, how can a property manager really excel at managing their business on Airbnb? What are the most important factors that sometimes get ignored?
Yeah, it's a good question, Marcus, for sure. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of people that want to learn and understand how can they be more successful on our platform. And the answer is fairly simple. You know, Airbnb as a community is built on trust. And I think what is so unique about Airbnb is that a guest is able to book a property on our platform and have a set of expectations by simply reading reviews, by looking at the listing and understanding what the property will offer to that person upon arrival. So I think a couple of critical things for a host and to be a very successful host is, of course, to have kind of strong content and all the other details. But on top of it, for Airbnb specifically, it's super important for hosts to ensure that they respond to guest queries. So let's say if a guest sends you a message, be sure to respond to them within 24 hours. The reason why it's so important to increase first response, it creates trust between you and the guest before they book, or even after they book, they feel more connected to you upon their arrival. But also on top of that, it improves your response rate, which is a really key driver for your representation in our search algorithm. So the higher the response rate, the better your performance your listings will be, which means the higher they will rank in our search algorithm. On top of that, reviews is super critical. And the interesting thing about Airbnb is that it's not only the guests that review you as a property, but you have the ability to review the guests as well. And a lot of hosts don't utilize that option, especially when it comes to professional hosts. And we encourage you to do so. Reason for that is, and it kind of creates a bit of an interesting situation between you and the guest, is when you review the guest first before they review you, they receive a prompt in their email that says, hey, the host has just reviewed you. If you want to see what they said about you, review them back. So what that creates a bit of what I call suspension or tension, where the guest says, oh, I wonder what they said about me. So therefore, I'll just go ahead and review them. And that straight away bumps your review rating as well. So you have more reviews. The more reviews you have, the better your performance rating it is. And again, the more active you are on the platform and the bigger trust it will create with potential new guests when they come across your property and want to book. So it's a kind of a circle, I would say. It's important to be engaging with our guests through messaging, but also don't forget to engage with them through reviews upon their departure.
This is something that we noticed also last year, that the communication between the host and the guest is way more important, because when we have uncertainties regarding travel and many other factors as well, it's important. So what we did there is we substantially improved our communications tools, especially the automated messages, so that you're able to adapt to a situation. Because it's important between a host and a guest to create a report right from the start, and sending a message that says, "Thank you, I'll get back to you soon," isn't too personal at all. So we made a lot of changes to the platform that allows you to customize these messages. And one of the major updates we did was also that we created a tool to automate the management of these reviews, and even give responses to guest reviews, because that's something that guests often look at when they book. Because not on Airbnb, but on a lot of platforms these days, people take for granted that reviews are somehow fake. You don't look at the star rating anymore. What guests might do is look at only the good reviews or only the bad reviews, or then compare them. So if you have a bad review and you give a response that explains the situation, that's actually might be the number one trigger for getting a booking. And I'm glad we have that ability in our platform now. So one of the questions, or actually quite a few of them, were related to the superhost status. Would you like to share a bit on the what is are there any updates to the superhost status, and what is the impact on people's bookings if you achieve that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Airbnb is really proud of our superhost community. It's quite a vast area of hosts, and we have a very large number of pro hosts, or what we consider professional hosts, as superhosts. Actually, fun fact, we even had a superhost won 1,000 active listings in one account. And some of the hosts who might be listening here today, with more than a couple of listings, have been trying to achieve superhost status, and may think, oh, it's impossible if I have more listings. It absolutely is not. Persistence, hard work, and continuous kind of meeting the required thresholds will definitely get you over the line. So I want to quickly outline the benefits of superhost status. You receive priority customer service support. It also allows our guests to filter in our search results by superhosts. So that ensures that you as a superhost, you're prime and center in our search results for our guests to see. And how to become superhost, it's quite simple. You just have to ensure that you have less than 1% cancellation rate over a 12-month period. You have to ensure that your response rate is very high, and that you respond to your guest first messages 90% and above over the time, and that your overall review rating is above 4.8 stars, and that over time you have hosted at least 10 trips on Airbnb.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna take a question here from the audience. Someone asked what happens if a guest lies on the review. And yes, that certainly happens. If you ever chosen a restaurant based on Google reviews, you know that you can find pretty much anything you want in those reviews. But if you just give a good response there, just like on a Google review, I'm sure that new bookers will also take that into account. And if you don't believe me, think about your favorite restaurant, look up their worst reviews, and you'll probably find that they have quite a lot of bad reviews. But check the response from the owner. It's probably a response that gives an assurance to anyone to come and visit that business again. So now I wanted to ask, I think it was a few weeks ago when Airbnb released a lot of updates to the platform that were really great and actually extremely innovative for the travel industry as a whole. For example, the whole idea, the concept that you can search for a trip without specifying where you're going. That's something that that I think many airlines have tried but never really succeeded to do. So I wanted to ask how, when it comes to the marketing activities that Airbnb is doing right now, how are you encouraging the Airbnb community to rebook and try new things? What are the actions that you're taking right now?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we're super proud of the new releases that have happened recently. And everything is that we design and bring out is for our community. Our Airbnb community is one of the largest out there, and our guest retention is very high. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think the first and foremost is that we offer 24-hour customer support. We also have this unique review system where both the guests and the hosts are able to review each other. It provides security for the guest, but also for the host before they accept the reservation, and also for the guest before they travel to really understand what to expect from the property. And what we want to encourage hosts is also to ensure that their listings are accurately displayed on our platform, which helps kind of create that guest retention and make sure that your amenities are reflected accurately. So if you have some really cool amenities, you should make sure to mention them in the description, or even upload a picture, because pictures paint 1,000 words, and the guests go through images first before they go into detail. So things like that really bring back the guest community into our platform. It's the uniqueness about our supply, and also the guest uniqueness that they find on our platform.
All right, then there's one question here that I think neither me nor Simona can answer. It's about whether we've noticed more negative reviews since the pandemic. My guess is that it would be actually more positive. People are more understanding. On the other hand, the demographics have changed. So what I'm going to do, Jerry, thank you very much for asking this. I'm going to ask our marketing team to dig into our own numbers and see if we can produce a blog post on the topic, and see if we can spot any trends there. Thanks for asking that. Now, finally, Simona, one more question. A lot of the questions that came in were related to suggestions for hosts to attract more guests. So what have you internally within Airbnb? Could you name, for example, top three suggestions that hosts should do to attract more guests?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's things to do and things not to do, and I think both of them are as long as each other. But I think we'll be starting with things what to do is first of all ensure that not only your listing content is high quality in terms of pictures, of course, description, etc., but also your profile is completed. So, for example, things like a summary and description about your business, where you're based, how many properties you manage, how long you've been in business. What that does is basically, especially if you have a new property with no reviews, our guests will decide to click on your profile. And I do this as a traveler quite a bit, is if I see no reviews, the first thing I do is I look through the host profile, and I'll have a look at their profile description to understand a little bit more about the host. That kind of helps me trust the host a little bit more before I book. So that's kind of one tip, is to ensure that your profile is also completed, as well as your listing description. Also, it's really important to ensure that you showcase all the amenities such as Wi-Fi, laptop-friendly space, self-check-in, free parking, pet-friendly, etc. That you showcase that and map them correctly onto that platform. All these amenities are the most searched for amenities on Airbnb right now, and it's super critical that if you offer any of those or all of them, that you map them correctly. Also, a couple of things that you shouldn't do is, when it comes to your landing picture, or the what we call the hero shot, ensure that it's high quality picture. Low quality pictures don't do it justice. And also for picture, you should really make sure that it's an attractive image, whether it's of the bedroom, of the living space, of the garden, and what we have seen many cases before, and I'm sure if you look through Airbnb yourself, you might see some listings where they have a bathroom as a hero shot, and that's just a mapping issue what the host hasn't really noticed, and ultimately that's going to be difficult to drive bookings and success for the guests, for the host. Another thing to note is that the name of the property really does matter. So instead of, let's say, naming your property, a double room for two, or whatever way you want to name it, think about how more attractive ways of how you can call it, such as lakeside villa for two, or cozy room for one, something that kind of attracts the attention of a traveler.
Yeah, thank you. We could also add, we have recently started doing workshops with our clients where we use our own analytics tools to figure out what can we do to improve the performance. And what we found that overall the performance in terms of occupancy rates and nightly rates is quite skewed. There's often a couple of properties that perform really well and a couple of properties that perform really bad. But if you're managing 50 properties, if you don't have a look at that, you may not know which properties it is. Now, what we found out is that it's very obvious when you can identify the properties that are underperforming to see what is the difference. And it's exactly like Simona said, it can be the first picture. That's why nobody clicks on it. Or when they click on it, it's there's details there that you don't want to see, or it's low quality. The name is extremely important as well. The most dramatic improvements we've seen with the name is when you choose a very strong theme. So if you have a very generic description, such as house with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, that's extremely generic. But the more specific you get, you have a high risk, of course. If you say that it's a romantic place, you're not going to attract people who are not looking for a romantic place. But if you can make it an exciting place or a fun place or cozy, that's something that you can test, and you'll get results immediately. You can turn the low performing properties into mid and even high performing properties. And sometimes, unfortunately, the only answer to that is to have new photos, send in a new photographer. But you should be able to see the trends if you have similar properties and you compare the performance using the right analytics tools. So thank you very much, Simona, for sharing that from Airbnb's side. I see that there's a lot of questions here regarding the roadmap of Airbnb, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Simona, that's something that as a publicly listed company you can't really comment on.
Unfortunately not. I wish I could, but unfortunately not. And I think I'm just kind of looking through the questions. Some of the questions are quite operational in the sense that they're more related to one individual account. So what we can do is we can follow up on one-to-one basis with hosts. So if you guys feel like you have a question, feel free to send it through Hostaway, and then I can address them, or our team can address them after. But in the meantime, there's a couple of questions that I've seen have come through that maybe of interest to the bigger group. I think Jerry Freeman has asked, what do we mean by demographics have changed? Jerry, I think that was in relation to the very start of the presentation, and we're not saying that demographics have changed. We just kind of have enhanced a little bit more in terms of we're seeing domestic travel increase. That's of course because international travel is not really a possibility right now. But we're also seeing is that family vacations are on the rise. People are traveling with friends. They want to take their pets. They want to stay for longer, and in some cases even do what we call workation, where they travel for a week or travel for 2 weeks, work Monday to Friday, enjoy the facilities or the surrounding area over the weekend. And that's kind of the changes that we're seeing in guest booking patterns. And you as a host, I'm hoping that you're adapting to it and ensuring that your length of stay settings are set correctly. You're prepared for quite a few last minute bookings, and that you don't have a long advance notice, and that you have length of stay discounts enabled to ensure that you're satisfying that demand.
Yeah, one demographic shift that we've also seen is the group size, and that can be very easily explained. Let's say you had planned a trip to go, maybe you're a couple, maybe a couple with a kid. You had planned to go see your grandparents in France, but you simply can't or couldn't because it's difficult to travel. Now instead, you're going to travel somewhere nearby, but maybe you don't want to go alone and sit in a cottage nearby where you live. But if you bring a couple of friends, or maybe you have family nearby and bring a bigger group, then it's something that you wouldn't perhaps normally consider as a travel alternative, but that has become really popular this year. And from what we're seeing in our own data, when restrictions are released, many people who have tried a new way of traveling, for example, renting a place nearby and driving there with their best friends, they are continuing to do so. They never considered it before. They always wanted to get on a plane and travel far away and see exotic things. But now some of them will continue to do that. And that's something that has definitely changed, and I believe will be a long-term trend. Now, there's one question here by Linda that I think I could answer. She's saying it may not be right for this forum, maybe not, but she's asking, what should a host do if they have guests or that do damage or steal things, and the hosts end up being afraid of them? This is something that I think every business has this kind of problem, where you attract a certain type of customer, and there's no easy way around it. But you should look at your properties that you manage. If you have one, see why is it that you're attracting a certain type of renters, and this may sound harsh, but sometimes it's as simple as the price point. We've seen dramatic changes in the type of guests that book simply based on the price. Because if you're pricing it low to get it booked out, it's possible that you attract a different demographic than if you price it, let's say you double the price and you accept a lower occupancy rate. Your annual revenues might be the same for that property, but the type of guests you attract are not going to be those who are looking for the cheapest possible price, but instead they find other things that are attractive in the property. So that's what I can say from our experience, that you have to think about what is the image that the property gives, but also what is the price point it is at. Because if you got a great property and you list it at a low price point, probably the best type of guests are going to think there's something wrong with it. Why else would it be so cheap? So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Linda, at least to some extent. Simona, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you made a good point here, Marcus. I think on a side note, also Airbnb does offer host protection and insurance, which every host on Airbnb is automatically rolled in once they become a host. If you have any issues with an Airbnb guest, you can contact our customer support team, who will help you to review the situation and look at covering the damage where feasible, where the guest left. So there's avenues for you there, but I think just to highlight, and I'm sorry to hear some of you may experience this. It is a very rare occasion that such things happen, and there's so many check-ins happen every minute, and it's a really, really small percentage of this happening. Unfortunately, it does happen sometimes, and we do have a host protection insurance in place to help protect you from that and help you with the damage. There is a quick question here from Nancy. I can see she's wondering how to research most popular amenities for her area. And she's based out in cold winters with snow. Sounds quite dreamy, Nancy, if I may say. I love snow, but never mind. I think in terms of amenities, what we're seeing right now is that things that attract travelers long term and allow them to work from locations is key. So, things like Wi-Fi, things like self check-in, workspace, and also pets allowed are the key amenities that we're seeing searched over and over and over again in variety of markets, whether it's snow, sunny, or island life. That's kind of the repeating themes that we're seeing. So make sure that those amenities that you have, and you have the option for guests to come and stay in your property for a week or 2 weeks, and allow them to work from your property with strong Wi-Fi, a location where they can work, and also if they're able to bring their pet, because pets are family members too, right?
All right, then there's another question from Linda here. Have you noticed a rise in people looking for a home that is large enough for events? I can speak only on behalf of our clients. A couple of them, especially those that are focused on the luxury segment, typically in more exotic locations like southern France, Caribbean, Southeast Asia. They tend to have in their portfolio a couple of these much bigger mansions. Southern US, especially Florida, also includes that. And there's definitely a massive demand for those. If you are considering managing a large property, let's say something with more than 6 bedrooms, that's a really good idea right now. The reason isn't events. People aren't booking them to do weddings. Well, maybe they're doing that too, but the reason is simply that that people's travel patterns have changed. They go with their family or even extended family, and since the attractiveness of hotels is so much less than it was before, booking 8 hotel rooms isn't really an attractive idea anymore. So if you have the ability to put on a property that has that many bedrooms, it's a great business right now. That's what we're hearing from our clients.
Thanks, Marcus. I see there's a question from Simona Berman. How does your service fee differ from VRBO, and what brings people to you as opposed to VRBO? I'll be very honest, I don't know what the service fee is for VRBO. Should know, my bad, I don't. However, I think I can address the latter part, which is what brings people to Airbnb versus VRBO. Airbnb is a definitely unique platform, and what we're super proud of is the unique number of guests that we have, and the repeat number of guests that we have. As you saw in this presentation earlier, there's a lot of direct traffic to Airbnb, and now it's become a noun. People no longer say, I'm going to rent a short-term rental. They go and say, I'm going to rent an Airbnb, whether it's in movies or in songs or wherever, you hear it all the time. So we do attract a lot of direct business. Guests recognize our brand as a very strong brand. We have a very vibrant and strong community, and people come back to Airbnb number time again, and purely for the options such as mentioned before. We offer 24-hour guest support, we offer host protection insurance, and a variety of other things, which makes our platform very attractive, both for guests and for hosts.
Yeah, thanks for picking up that question. I can maybe add a couple of observations or feedback that we often hear from property managers, because the experience of VRBO and Airbnb can differ quite a lot depending on your own business. But in general, and this is not only VRBO and Airbnb, it's all the OTAs and different ways of getting guests. I would say Airbnb is really good because it takes care of a lot more of the entire booking process than any other platform out there. And that, for example, the host protection, managing the payments, making sure that the property is represented in the right way. And that's something that some property managers really prefer. And that's a good value that you get out of Airbnb. VRBO, on the other hand, the positive feedback that I've heard from property managers there is actually the exact opposite. VRBO connects the property manager with the guest, and then the property manager does a lot of the work. For example, they invoice the client or the guest directly, and they set their terms. But that also means they have more freedoms. But which one is better for you really depends on, first of all, the type of properties that you manage, But second of all, whether it's better or not, well, that depends on what do you want from your business model. Do you want a lot of hands-on or hands-off? Do you want to upsell and negotiate, or do you want a more transactional business? So yeah, that's just feedback from our customers. Let's see here. See, Simona, do you see any more questions here?
No, majority of questions are quite operational. I think we should address versus comments to our answers as well. So maybe let's just give it another minute, see if anybody posts any more questions, and yeah, and if you guys feel like we haven't managed to get through to your question today, or we didn't address it rightly enough, so feel free just to drop an email to Hostaway, and maybe Marcus can explain how, and we can then address those questions directly after with you.
Absolutely. So if you have a lot of these questions are account specific, and in some cases they're even region specific, depending on where you are and what type of host you have, for example, how many properties you manage. So if you have a question for Airbnb, please contact support@hostaway.com. Mention that you heard this on the webinar and that you'd like to reach out. We will then take your question forward and make sure it gets answered. There's also a couple of questions here that are specifically for Hostaway. Please, same thing, contact support@hostaway.com.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. I can just see one question from Michelle, and she's been inquiring about pet fees, and kind of how to best charge for pet fees, because that's a challenge. Yes, it is a challenge, and we're fully aware of it. Although it's one of the top searched amenities, and as mentioned with staycations, people want to bring their pets, and I'm sure you heard my dog in the background. I want to bring her on holidays, even though she does bark a lot. Nevertheless, when it comes to charging for pets, the best solution for that is to use our resolution center. And through a resolution center, you can request a payment for an additional service, such as pets. And that goes through Airbnb. So there's a full record of you requesting the funds. So if you have trouble with guests not paying the pet fee, that's then gone through our customer service team. And you're able to involve our customer service team to get the funds back from the guest, which they're able to do, or Airbnb is able to help you with the damage coverage, which is through host protection insurance as well. So feel free to use the resolution center, which is a tool you all have access to.
All right, thank you. And there's one question from a very interesting name, anonymous attendee, asking about the house share style B&B. So not a full separation, but only need to be in common space to get to the bedroom. Yes, that is a very common model, and it does work. It's probably not the most popular style of accommodation right now, but Airbnb does support that, and that's also, yeah, contrasting to VRBO that do require an entire property. But what we also see quite a lot is that property managers, especially when it comes to larger properties, they split them up. So if you have a duplex or individual units or rooms, you can rent them out separately. And using Hostaway, you can then combine them. So you can sell them as an entire unit or a big house, but you can also sell them as separate. I think the best example that I've seen was an island that had 2 cottages. You could rent each of them individually, but you could also rent on in a separate ad. You could rent the entire island. And the best part with that setup is that the price people are willing to pay to have their private island with 2 cottages is much higher than if you get just 2 individual or 2 separate cottages on an island. So it's definitely a good business model to experiment with. All
Great.
right. I think we're up on time. So I wanted to thank you, Simona, very much for joining. It was exciting to have another webinar together, and I think this time we were able to answer most of the questions that were asked. I also wanted to thank the audience here for all the good questions, and we hope that you learned something. Simona, any last thoughts?
No, just thank you, Marcus, and the Hostaway team for organizing this, and it's great to connect as always. And you know, I really do enjoy speaking to hosts directly through Q&A or in group sessions. I think it helps alleviate some of the challenges they may be facing, and also provide some tips how to be a better host on our platform.
All right, then we're gonna end here. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks all. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.